difficulties here. Early morning, Monday here in Sydney. Couple minutes late, but it seems like the stream is working. My internet sometimes, this time of the day, 5:30 a.m., sometimes it gets funny, but we're here. Excuse me. I just woke up. We're a little bit earlier today. I usually stream an hour from now, but I have a new client, a new online client. So they live in America, so I had to adjust my schedule. So I'm not only a strength and conditioning coach here at my gym here in Sydney, I also do online coaching. So here we go. Guys, we had a busy week. We have a busy week ahead. This past weekend wasn't the busiest, but we did win money. We just watched the Manchester card. Wasn't too unpredictable on what happened. We picked the winners. We won a little bit of money in terms of value. I didn't bet too heavy. I bet smart. And sometimes the best bets are when you don't bet. We had another huge upset with a fighter who was a favorite, $1.04 favorite. I didn't bet on it. I told you guys not to. I know some of you guys might have. William Crolla. 100 on William Crolla would have only got you $4 back. So I'm happy with the adjustments I've made as a bettor and as a guy who gives you advice, and by not taking that bet. So the last few weekends, I've made that adjustment of not taking those huge favorites, and it paid off for me. And some of you guys hit some props. Some of you guys hit some money lines. Some of you guys hit some method of victories. The only prop I missed was the knockdown prop in the Catterall fight. But other than that, I hit on both Catterall. I hit on Cordina. And so all in all, let's rock and roll, carry this momentum. Guys, if ever you want me to post your picks, post your winnings, post your parlays, all you have to do in our community post section is comment, tag me, and I'll screenshot them. So you guys can see I've been doing that week by week, and I know some of you guys like that a lot. All right, so I have a busy day today. In terms of coaching and videos. We have a lot of fights to cover. I'm going to do another live stream later, but I'm also going to be, I have to do 2 videos. I'm going to be uploading my breakdown on the ladies. Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor, and I'm going to be uploading also.
Okay, so hey guys, welcome back.
Hold on one second. I'm also going to be the Hamza, Shiraz, Edgar, Berlanga breakdown. So I have 2 videos I'm going to be uploading, and I'm going to be going live one more time. So if you're new to the channel, if you haven't already, hit bell notification button. If you haven't subscribed yet, do that. I know a lot of you guys watch my content. The cool thing about YouTube's analytics is they send you, as a content creator, they send you a bunch of sort of information, metadata on who watches you, how long people watch for, etc. And I was looking at my month-to-month breakdown. 75% of people who watch my videos aren't subscribed. So I want to get that up if you could do that. It might be one of those things that you're just unaware of, because if you're watching YouTube on your TV, it just sort of suggests things to you. Other than that, let's get into this. I want to hear your guys' parlays. What's up, Cigar? I got very lucky with Catterall fight. My main lock was Catterall by decision to hedge. Nice, Cigar. Love that. I posted one of you boys. I forget who it was, but similar bet. Picked Cordina to win by decision and picked the Catterall fight not to go the distance. And that's the beautiful thing. That could either burn you or work for you in terms of when fights end early due to a headbutt, but they go to the cards. So it's a technical decision. So if you fight not to go to the distance, it works for you. Burgess, we got to talk about Morel fight. Yeah. Burgess, what's up, buddy? As you guys are checking in, Kiza. Nice. Excellent, Kiza. Way to get that. So to answer Burgess's question, he's asking about, he's asking about a fight with some Australian implications. It's not new sort of news that Iman Khatiev is managed by Jim Kambosos. So George's father had, his, I think it's GK or JK Promotions. And Iman Khatiev, every time he fights, we get a lot of write-ups about him down here. So I've seen him fight a couple times. I knew Robocop head Eubank was going to headbutt him. A couple people said that. What's up, Head History Vault? I think Morel, to put, and we're going to be uploading a prediction on the Morel fight. Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those fun fight weeks where we're going to really learn a lot about ourselves, how good we really are individually and as a team with our bets in terms of how we pull the trigger. I think there's going to be money to be made on method of victories, but guys, when you look at the odds, there are so many 50-50 fights, a few of them at least, that we don't really have to pick. As long as you get your fighter correct, you can make a lot of money. It's going to depend on where you pull the trigger at. Like, I mean, Shakur versus Zapeda, the fight to go the distance. Right now, it's paying $1.40. I think the fight to go the distance is $1.35, and I think Shakur to win decision is $1.45. So that's something to thinking about down the road. I want to put a bookend on Katia versus Morel. Guys, Morel really showed me something in his fight against Benavidez. He's really, really good. David Morel, I think he's going to be a world champion, and he's still really young. He showed me that he has a dog in him. He showed me that we'll see if he could, obviously that flashy little style he has, make some adjustments. Some guys do, some guys don't regarding their defensive-minded approach. Ahmad Katayev is going to be most dangerous first half of the fight. Big puncher. He has a massive, you have to hit that guy with a fire extinguisher. My issue with Katayev is that he gasses out. He gasses out. He gasses out in a way where, and this isn't anything to do with his conditioning. I'm not saying he gasses out like he comes in unprepared. When you're a big puncher like that, your punches are going to have more pop on it early on. So what I mean by that, if your biggest threat of winning is your punch power, and you don't carry that punch power late, some guys do, some guys don't. Katayev, what I haven't seen, he doesn't carry it late. So when I say he gasses out, he loses his number one weapon late. So I think that could be an issue. Ten pro fights, 9 knockouts. Yeah, Derval Palacio. And guys, we covered Derval Palacio was a good. Derval Palacio wasn't a sort of walk in the park for Ahmad Katayev, who only had 9 pro fights. When you look at Palacio, who Derval had fought, you know, it was a good. And Katayev had a point deducted in that fight for a low blow. It was a good matchup. It was a competitive fight, and it was a nice little step up for him. I just think the gap between Palacio and Morel might be a little too much. Yeah, I think the gap exactly. We'll see though. For fighters who are this heralded, coming from the amateurs to the pros, who have this much hype about them, like Katayev, similar to Morel. Morel's had his step up against Benavidez. And I liked what I saw. Even though I picked Benavidez to win, I left that fight learning a lot about Morel. And I respect him. I expect big things from him. Morel is Katayev's Benavidez. Similar to what Berlanga told Shiraz to his face. How Berlanga told Shiraz that Berlanga is Shiraz's Canelo. That's what Berlanga meant. And this is what I see in this interesting Katayev-Morel fight. Morel already proved it to me, at least, in his step up against Benavidez. A lot of you people said that was a 50-50 fight. I didn't see it. I already had Benny a couple levels above Morel. I like Zapeda and Matias to win. There's so much to talk about. Guys, I'm going to be doing 2 live streams every day. I'm going to be uploading 2 edited videos every day. I got 10 fights to cover. So if I jump around a little bit, because it's exciting to talk about and break down these fights, I'm trying to stay in the pocket. And I feel I've gotten better the last few weeks, staying in the pocket at least a couple minutes to serve your questions. If you guys won money on any of the picks, support the page, whether you can. If you're able to, tip your bartender, tip your bookie, like this video if you haven't already subscribed, and then let's get this chat going. The Zapeda versus Shakur fight is really interesting because here's my question to the people who are picking Zapeda. Dwayne Styles, you got to work, make that. You know, a strong work ethic shows up everywhere in life. People in this day and age, I see a lot of people online talking about, you know, life's too short to, you know, work. Work is part of happiness, like internally, especially if you're doing productive work, if you're doing physical work, if you're doing something that you could get excited about. I think there's a direct connection with being productive and being happy. So hopefully you found that, Dwayne. It's going to be Shaq by decision. Yeah. Don't overthink it. Yeah. Good. We don't always see eye to eye, but I feel you on that. What I was talking about Shakur Stevenson is look at his His he's beat Padley. He beat Harutnian. The Edwin De Los Santos fight, Yoshino fight, Conceição, Valdez. I still think personally my favorite fight for Shakur was Jamal Herring. That was 5 years ago. That was almost 4 years ago. And that was at 130 pounds. If you take the Edwin De Los Santos fight out of what he's done lately and just look at Harutnian and Padley, Shakur Stevenson is actually, when we talk, people call him a runner. He only fought like that against De Los Santos. Watch the fight tape on Padley, watch the fight tape on Harutnian, watch the fight tape on Herring. Shakur Stevenson fights on the front foot. Likewise good. Shakur Stevenson fights on the front foot. That's why, to really explain all the negativity about the De Los Santos fight to people, a lot of Shakur's fans were kind of perturbed by that too. And he went from a guy to seeing putting on the front foot. T. Rich, why are you betting on William Crolla? Why are you, dude? I told you, boys, stop betting on $4 prelim fighters. No more gold medalists. No more $4 prelim fighters. No more $1s, $2s, all the way up to $10. Don't bet on them. Nice. Bills to pay, school to pay. Man, see, responsibilities. Exactly. Responsibilities. That's what makes us men, though. That's where we find our value. Yeah. Yes. I know the whole house. Boys, do you remember last week we had to I forget who it was, but last week the chat and I had to talk you off the ledge. Somebody was gonna bet 10 grand to win 200. I know, if you're on the stream, you remember that. And we were like, dude, do not bet 10 grand to win 200. Okay, so where I'm getting at about Shakur is with Zapeda's style. Zapeda, he's a front forward fighter. He has a long jab. His cardio, it's no secret. The thing Zapeda does really well is he weaponizes his pace. He weaponizes his cardio. The thing that Shakur does really well is his timing and his accuracy. So I appreciate it, Dwayne. Dude, anything that helps. So I'm really comfortable with the fight to go to the decision because we've seen Zapeda get dropped before, but when's the last time Zapeda got buzzed or rocked? When's the last time Zapeda, was almost out on his feet? Even when he got dropped against Farmer, it was kind of just, he got buzzed slightly. Where I'm overthinking, and I know Good said don't overthink it, it's Shakur by decision. Where as a smart bettor and somebody who analyzes these matchups, where my overthinking comes into play is with that Zapeda style coming in long, pressure, and Shakur speed, timing, countering. Shakur has good body work too. So think about it when you watch Zapeda's tape. He's not one of these fighters who just uses his jab to enter. He uses his jab to enter, but when he enters, he's still popping. Because it's in his programming. He's constantly popping. And so what I'm thinking is, I could see Shakur timing that entrance. Zapeda, coming from range to in the pocket. Zapeda throwing a jab, and I could see Shakur slipping and ripping the body. I could see Shakur hurting Zapeda to the body. But the safest, when we're talking about safest bets, which in boxing there are no safe bets, the logical bet based on history is obviously the fight to go to the decision, and then Shakur. If you're on Shakur's side, Shakur to win a decision, or if you're on Zapeda's side, Zapeda to win a decision. But I'm going to be uploading that fight breakdown tomorrow. The fight I'm coming up first is the Edgar fight. Yeah, what's up, GOAT? Everyone checking in. Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. It's something that you have to think about. And we know Shakur doesn't lack on confidence. Nobody ever talks about no one ever talks about when people talk about Shakur's strengths, they always talk about his reflexes and timing. I just watched his last 4 fights. If you remove the De Los Santos fight from his last 4 or his last 5, Shakur's a front foot fighter. That's that's what gets forgotten about. And now, if he fights Zapeda like he fought Jamel, I could see Shakur stopping him. That's why it's tough. But if he fights Zapeda like he fought Edwin, I could see it go into a decision. Mate, what a great opportunity for both fighters. I really mean that. I'm a fan of the sport. What a great opportunity for Cameron. What a great opportunity for Shakur, and I mean that in such a way of if both guys, if one of these guys gets a stoppage, a viral stoppage, they have it like Shakur could rewrite everything the haters have said because his record already speaks for it. He's never lost. He's won world titles at 26, 30, and 35. If he goes in and beats Zapeda, who's 33-0, and knocks him out, what are people going to say then? What are people going to say? Yeah, if Zapeda loses, of course, either guy. A loss doesn't really change anything. Zapeda's highly marketable. You're going to be there. That's awesome. That's at that tennis stadium, right? Tennis venues, yeah. I saw MMA. I saw UFC 193. I was at UFC 193 in 2016 when Holly Holm fought Ronda Rousey in Melbourne, where they do tennis. They do the Melbourne Open there, but that's not like the event you guys are about to see in New York. That's actually the way the physics, the architecture, the space of that is actually for tennis. So the acoustics. If Shakur knocks out Zapeda, they're gonna. DJ. I think either or. Even if Shakur loses, I want to see Shakur fight Tank. I think boxing fans, we deserve that. Even if Tank loses to Roach, I want to just see those two fight. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like it would. What's happened with Tank and Shakur is kind of like if fight fans have to wait a decade to see Abdullah versus Schofield fight. I think those guys are going to fight. If Abdullah fights Schofield before we see Tank and Shakur, that's insane, which might happen. Guys, this fight card is so we could start talking about. I'm gonna start piecing our parlay together tomorrow, but I already posted my July long parlay last week, and it's still active. The only fight that was active for the long parlay for the month of July was the Catterall fight, and we hit on that. So it's still live. So if you guys picked Eubank for your long parlay, it busted. But you have time to redo one. So the good news is if you lost, it was only one loss. Because when I'm looking at this card, do you guys remember the very first fight on the Times Square card? No one brought this fight up. Reto Tsutsumi. Good, don't say that. Go to the comments on my fight prediction video. There were a lot of Eubank fans. There were a lot of people saying Eubank was going to win. I'm telling you, these promotional companies trying to get Subaru Matias the belt. Puello going to lose a decision even if it's close. Why would you say that, Rich? Why would you say that? Just style? They want a guy, the boogeyman, a big puncher, or a guy with a 100% knockout to win ratio? I don't know. Why would you? I mean, I think I think that's an easy narrative to debate on the other side. Money. Okay, so if you guys remember, what's up, GOAT? If you guys remember on the very first fight of the Times Square card, there was the Japanese fighter who's a prospect, and he fought a really tough, unknown American. I think the American was a southpaw. His name, but that kid is fighting on the undercard, the Japanese fighter. Reto Tsutsumi. He made his pro debut on the Times Square card. He had a lot of hype about him. He's fighting a guy with 6 pro fights. Yeah, he fought Lavelle Whittington. So there are some fights on that undercard that nobody good. Matias ain't losing to Puello. I think Matias loses to Puello. Yeah, I think a guy who has the skills of Alberto Puello is going to make Matias look average, actually. I don't think... Yeah. I'm confident with that. The fight... I'm actually more worried about picking Berlanga over Shiraz than I am Puello versus Matias. To be honest with you. I mean, Matias, his feet are flat. He's heavy on that front foot. He gets out of position. You know, he throws his... He doesn't really set up his backhand. His jab is decent. Shiraz is winning. I disagree. I think Edgar Berlanga dominates Shiraz, to be honest with you. Paro and Hitchens better than them too. Well, hindsight's 2020. Paro and Hitchens. Paro beat Subriel. Paro versus Puello is an interesting fight. He's just herky-jerky with Matias. I don't see him winning too many rounds against Puello. Yeah, look at how Matias enters and exits. He's actually very one-dimensional in what he wants to do, which is fine. One-dimensional in a way of what Zapeda is one-dimensional. Not saying using one-dimensional sometimes gets a negative connotation like it's a bad thing. Dub win a lot of thumbs up. Paro lost. Counter started. So you're saying that Subaru Matias... I think Matias would get stopped against GAR. I know I don't like doing boxing mats, but the Matias that I watched against Pero, which was a really close fight, a fun fight, and the Puello I watched, the adjustment he made against GAR, I think that Puello definitely beats Matias. I think that Puello actually beats Pero. But I don't think Matias beats GAR. I think GAR stops Matias. But like I said, you can't do boxing mats because Sandor Martin was in between the GAR and the... You know, Sandor Martin fought Puello really tough. Yeah, we're going to get to that. Seb Fondora and Tszyu. I mean, there's so many fights to get to. Guys, I already talked about it, and this isn't supposed to sound controversial. I like... Yeah, I like Seb to beat Tszyu, man. I'm saying, like, I think right now, I'm 80-20 on picking Fondora to beat Tszyu. And that's strictly based on, I talked about it before. I just think Fondora is getting better. I think Tszyu is who he is. That's why his fans love him. I think Fondora stops Tszyu. You can't change, like, if anything, look how Tszyu fought Murtazaev. Look how Tszyu fought Joey Spencer. He gets stopped against Murtazaev. He fights Joey Spencer the same exact way. The only reason he gets stopped against Murtazaev is a level above Spencer, has more power, world class. I think Seb, even though Seb hasn't been the most active guy, that's not a shocking thing to say with all things considered. I still think we're going to see a level above that we saw last time, just based on the kid lives in the gym. He's always training. He's young. He's learning how to use his height, his reach. And you can't forget, I just can't get out of my head the way Tszyu fought Murtazaev. I can't get that out of my head. The lack of adjustment, meaning, and to see from fight to fight, didn't change anything against Spencer. I can't get that out of my head for some reason. And people were like, Tszyu was winning the fight before the cut. What are you talking about? The cut happened at the 5.5 minute mark, at the 6 minute mark in the fight. It was at the end of round 2. People were talking about like Fondora rocked Tszyu before the cut. and Tszyu rocked Fondora, and like people were acting like before the cut it was a wash. It wasn't. Rewatch those first 2 rounds. It won't take you a long time. Tszyu was not washing Fondora before the cut. It was going to be, I think what people forget, it was going to be, it was competitive before the cut, and it was competitive after the cut. And this is going to sound controversial. People think that just because Tszyu was the one bleeding, that it was full advantage for Fondora. But sometimes that's not always the case when you have like a wounded animal in front of you. You know, metaphorically and literally speaking, when the guy's in front of you bleeding, covered in blood, it's like, it's not always the easiest thing to stick to a game plan. You know what I mean? You could get big-eyed. You could get you start headhunting. So there was an issue there as well coming from Fondora's side, being able to deal with that. And then he got clipped, I think, in the 4th or 5th. I think he might have got his nose broken. And so you see the blood. You might think that your opponent is, injured, but he's not. You take risks. You fight him at a range that you don't really fight at. The only thing with Fondora, yeah, he's not a polished fighter. He's not. He has flaws for sure. In terms, sometimes he fights, I feel, in the pocket a little bit too much. He's very brave. His defense can be leaky. I don't like how he exits with his chin up in the air. So there's a lot of things there as well. What do you guys think about Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano? I know nobody's asked me about it. I'm uploading that breakdown. I mean, Fondora I don't think he's fully polished, though. I think Fondora still has a couple levels we're going to see, especially with, where he punches at, what ranges he punches at, him making adjustments in his entrances. I mean, stuff like that. Not specifically physical technique, but even that physical technique, he could go from here to here. So that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. I think there's probably there's fighters who will retire who were never polished, who were world champions. That's what I mean. So Serrano versus Taylor's coming up. This is an interesting matchup. I'm just going to give you my 2 cents because I just got done doing the film study and I'm uploading the video this afternoon. It's very rare that in boxing we see a trilogy when one of the fighters is up 2-0. Sometimes you see one win and then one draw, 1-0-1. We've seen that before. Recent memory in heavyweight division. But in this matchup, people are like, why are we seeing the trilogy? The answer is simple. 2 of the best in the world to ever do it in the women's. I actually personally thought Serrano won the last fight. And I think because of that, a lot of people thought Serrano won. Both fights were really close. In the women's division, we saw it with the men last night with Eubank. There's a chance of headbutts. So, it's something that you have to think about as well. I wonder if there's any betting apps, if they're going to start adding, will there be a cut due to a headbutt? Which I'm not saying or promoting to take that bet. But, mate, we've seen a lot of cuts lately from headbutts. And I talk about that. In the amateurs, you see that a lot. In women's boxing, you see that a lot. Because they lead in with their head. Their timing's off. Their balance is off. The one thing is, if you're a front-footed fighter and you're working your technique and you're learning to slip, you're learning to squat and move, a good coach will always tell you, when you're level changing, never get your head over your front knee. That is a physics, that is a technical sort of faux pas. When I'm leaning in, and even in the clinch, you never should have your head placement over your front knee. You should have the mobility to have your head over your hips. You see this a lot with women and younger fighters who are learning the sport. They get that head over the front knee. They put their head in a position to get headbutts from their opponent. And also they're susceptible to getting uppercutted. It's just a very amateur technical flaw that you see at the highest level. And when I see that, when I'm doing film study on fighters, it's really tough for me to, it's one of those red flags for me. It's really tough for me to pick a fighter when it's one of the things I look at, be like, damn, this dude level changes and, his hips are over his front knee. That's some day one stuff that you want to correct, but not everybody corrects it. So, my point is, I'm taking it, not my official until I upload it, but I think Amanda wins this fight. I always win money on girl boxing, though. Never bet money on the chicks. The biggest bet, other than Josh Taylor, other than Josh Kelly knocking out Fabio Flea at $1.80, and I went really heavy. You know, the most money I bet on a method of victory. I did that with Gabby Fondora against, she was fighting Badillo, and I got her by stoppage too. So depending on which ladies fight, you can win a lot of money. Like I always win money on Gabby, and so I would debate that about never bet on the ladies. But Alicia Bumgarner, the bomb, she's fighting again. You know, we haven't seen her in a long time. She was barely fav, huh? No, she was a big favorite. She was a big favorite. She was fighting an undefeated Mexican fighter who was, you know, never stepped up. I took Gabby to win by knockout, is what I'm saying. Yeah, she was barely favorite, barely coming up. But yeah, that was her last fight was probably 6 months ago. And then, so Alicia is fighting Miranda. She's a big favorite. Savannah Marshall's fighting. That ladies card, I think there's money. There's money to be made even if you want to go safe. And I'm just running through this real quick. Chantel Cameron money line, Ellie Scottney money line, Savannah Marshall money line, Bumgarner money line, and then you throw Serrano on there, who's $1.70. I mean, I like that. What does that pay real quick? So you take. This is one of those times where I wish I was more tech savvy. So I told you, the longer you're on my channel, you'll know I'm tech savvy when it comes to video editing, video production, filming documentaries. The camera I use is like a $7,000 camera that an investor got for me during my first documentary. I know how to use the software to edit, but on these live streams, I don't know how to share a screen. So I don't know how to share a screen. So I wish I knew how to share a screen so you guys could see the parlay. But anyway, I'll figure that out. So if I take Chantel Cameron on the money line, Scottney on the money line, Savannah Marshall, Bumgarner, and Serrano, that's $245. 100 gets you your money back plus 145. I think I'm going to do that just for some fun. And if I do make that bet, I'll post it in our post section. Let me know what you think of that. That card is happening the day before the card in New York City. And we have Morel versus Kataev, Playo versus Matias, Edgar versus Hamza, Lester Martinez. He's not on that card. I don't think he's on that card, is he? But he's fighting. I'm a big fan of Lester Martinez. He's a guy nobody really talks about. I know the boxing heads talk about him. You know, a lot. I have a really educated chat, a really educated subscriber base. So I know you boys know. Lester Martinez, 19-0, 16 knockouts. Fights at 168 pounds, number 12 in the world. He's fighting in Fresno against DeBombe. So he fights out of B&B Boxing. His coach is Bomac. He's a fun fighter. Born in Guatemala, 29-year-old Orthodox fighter who could crack. Fun fighter, fun fighter. Nobody talks about him. Let's pull up the awkward BoxRec algorithm real quick. I say awkward because before Sugar beat Rikishi, Rikishi was the #1 fighter on BoxRec's algorithm at 130 forever. And so I think a lot of that happened. A lot of the odds were heavy on Rikishi, and that's why we won money on Sugar Nunes. So sometimes we have to thank BoxRec's algorithm for doing that. So right now, Lester's number 12. So he's not quite in the top 10. 168, you got Canelo, Mabili, Charlo, Munguia. Munguia at number 4 is wild. Shiraz, Iglesias, Pacheco, Saggio, Berlanga. Wow, Shiraz at number 5 is wild. Never fought at 168, coming off a loss, in my opinion, to Adames, even though it was a draw. You put Shiraz at 5. I mean, Osley Iglesias is behind him. Diego Pacheco is behind him. Callum Simpson is behind him. Lester Martinez is behind him. I think Lester beats Shiraz. Hot take. Check out the IBO computer rankings. Okay. Dude, I think Derevyanchenko, hot take. I think Derevyanchenko beats Shiraz. But I think Derevyanchenko beats a lot of people. I think that guy's the rest, you know, he's never been stopped. Look who he's fought. Nobody puts their hand up to fight Derevyanchenko. Look at this run. He lost all these fights, but look at this run. He won starting in 2019. This is insane. Starting in 2019 or 2018, he loses a split decision to Danny Jacobs, beats Jack Colkay, loses a UD to Golovkin, UD to Jamal Charlo, majority decision to Adames. He beats Conley, loses to Munguia, lost a decision to Mabili, and he just won a fight against Ramos. No one calls him out. He's a nightmare to fight. He's 39 years old now, so he's old. But still, never being stopped by some of the greatest, punchers in your era. No one could stop him. I think he beats Shiraz 100%. But then again, I think I'd like to see him versus a lot of people. Yeah, I think Berlanga stops Shiraz. I do. I just don't. I struggle to see. I struggle to see Shiraz succeeding in the pocket based off of Berlanga's hand speed and power. And that's simple as that. And I don't like how leaky Shiraz is with his defense in range. Tell all you Andy Lee fans, I'm waiting. Tell me about it. Tell me about Andy Lee. Because we know the trainer gets in there and he fights with the fighter. So it's going to be 2 against 1, Berlanga versus Andy Lee and Shiraz. I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you guys. Andy Lee, we know Andy Lee's a great coach, but it's one of the things that people are using to defend Shiraz. Has the power of Canelo, neck match attacks. And like I said, dude, if you want an X Factor, Shiraz's X Factor, you guys are giving me Andy Lee. My X Factor for Berlanga is his victory lap after a loss. I won't bet on that. It's 50-50. Yeah. There's something to tell, guys, there's something to say about a bloke who does a victory lap after a loss, mate. A parade after a loss. Like I said, initially it sounds crazy, but then you think about it a little bit more and be like, this dude is wild. Shiraz got power. A lot of people can take explosive power. I think Berlanga is faster. Heavy hands and power is different. He's going to be strong. You think he's going to be stronger at 68? Did you watch when he fought Ammo Williams? I know it's 2 fights ago. I didn't like how he looked against Adames. I know he stopped Ammo late, but I think Ammo fighting at 160. I think Ammo should be at 147. At least 154. There's no way Ammo should be at 60. And, yeah. You don't think Berlanga and the black guy... Are you talking about Ammo? Shiraz been weight drained at 60. My point is, we know Berlanga's going to be coming into that fight almost 200 pounds. They're not always better when they move up, though. They're not always better when they move up. Gold member, in what way? How he was frustrated after the 4th round? How he had no answers? How he had no plan B or C? Oh, Adames is a stud, but Adames is a natural 47. Like, Adames is a little dude. He's been in there. The size and speed. When you think about how power, the equation for power from a plyometric perspective, speed creates power. You know what I'm saying? And then power creates strength. So, Shiraz, Adames, look at this, Adames could be fighting at 54. Ammo could be fighting at 47. Yeah, it's a fun fight. I think it's the reason why I'm picking it, because I think I love the back and forth with educated boxing fans on 50-50 fights. That's what makes boxing fun. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. But it's this back and forth because it allows us to think about it differently. Yeah, Shiraz could win. What if he comes in at 168 in a new division and he does look replenished? Then after the fight, I'll be like, damn, Shiraz is a problem at 68. I just don't see it. When I think of Hamza Shiraz, I see a guy who's gonna retire with a few losses, probably get stopped a couple times, maybe never become a world champion. But I could be wrong. Got Berlanga winning though. It's kind of like that hot take, that one ESPN, I forget his name, Colin Cowherd. Colin Cowherd, when LeBron, I remember because I graduated high school 2000, LeBron came out in 2002, And, you know, we're from like 40 minutes apart. He went to Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary. I grew up in Youngstown. When we were seniors in high school, LeBron was a freshman. We played them in a summer tournament. My point is, follow LeBron's whole career, obviously, because he got drafted by my team in Cleveland. And during the draft, Colin Cowherd had this hot take about how LeBron James was going to be a bust. He was the worst pick of all time. So at least we could come back to this after Shiraz retires and he becomes a Hall of Fame world champion. And we could say, holy shit, Johnny, that was one of the worst takes I've ever heard. But for now, I'm standing to it. When I think of Hamza Shiraz, him, you know, part of being that world caliber guy is being able to just, I don't know if he's gritty enough. I question his, we'll see. I question his mindset. We'll see. I don't like his body language in the mid to late rounds against Adames. And even if you said he hurt his hand, guys, I know guys who had their jaw broken in the second round and won late. This has happened to Apataya. This happened to Bam Rodriguez. So I don't like the excuse, oh, he hurt his hand. He hurt his hand. That's what, bitch, we got two hands. What are you talking about? So that's why he looked shocked with the deer in headlights, because he hurt his hand? Come on now. That's my biggest hesitation with him. We'll see. Yeah, this is what makes people great. You overcome adversity within the fight. You find a way. You figure it out. You don't just look like a deer in the headlights on the. But you know he's found Andy Lee. Andy Lee will be in that ring with him. And I don't think it was a game plan issue. I don't think Shiraz's shortcomings against Adames was a game plan thing. But all right, so yeah, I like the opposites. Berlanga's gonna get knocked out. Being British is already this man. No, damn, there's gonna be a dog fight. Dude, we know Kiza. Berlanga's best win was against Canelo, but he lost. That was Berlanga's best win. His best win was against Canelo, but he lost. Berlanga will tell you that. Carlos in the house. Guys, what's up? Like this video. I have a client in about 13 minutes. So I'm going to stay on for about 8 more minutes. I'm going live again today. Stay tuned. I'm doing the Amanda Serrano upload. I'm uploading Berlanga versus Shiraz. Carlos, you missed a lot, man. Carlos, you popped in 42 minutes. This is already the Wild West out here. We were talking about Berlanga's best win so far on paper. And I said his best win was against Canelo, which he lost. But Berlanga even said that's his best win. I loved it. I love when Berlanga told Shiraz that I'm your Canelo. Shiraz was just so perturbed. He's like, he didn't understand what he was talking about. But it's kind of like the best comparison for me because it's happening is David Morrell versus David Benavidez. David Morrell versus Amon Khatiev. David Morrell is Amon Khatiev's David Benavidez, meaning that Edgar Berlanga is Shiraz's Canelo. It makes perfect sense in terms of stepping up where they are in their career, proving themselves. But yeah, I told you, there's a few of these fights though. There's good debates to have, guys, all week. I can leave my stream on all week, Monday through Friday, and I guarantee there'll be at least a couple of you guys who would stay on the entire time. Because we could go back and forth even with Shiraz and Shakur and Zapeda. Berlanga is a bit small? What are you talking about, dude? He cut so much weight to make 68. Are you talking length and height? He's not that small, dude. Berlanga is a thick, stout dude who cuts a lot of weight, who comes in a fight night really big for 68. He hits like a goddamn truck, and his hand speed. Berlanga is slick in there. I feel that I understand. Look, I'm not going to bet the house on Ed. Ed's also only 28 years old. He's young. Berlanga's 6'1". Who said he's small in there? 6'1". He probably comes in fight night at least 195. He's a big boy. He's still only 28 years old. It's wild to think that Berlanga came up in the amateurs with Shakur. You know, that era of, amateur fighters coming. So, yeah. Good, I know. I got to figure that out. I'll do that. I got to figure that out, boys. I'll get there. Jason Quigley, Steve Rolls. Yeah, and hats off to Keith Conley. Nobody ever gives Keith Conley any props. Keith Conley is Berlanga's manager. We're Facebook friends, so I see what he does in between fights, and I like how Berlanga has been. I like how he's kind of maneuvered his career. To get to that Canelo fight, and now it's the next level. So in his head, when he did that victory lap, people it's funny. I think it's hilarious he did a victory lap after a loss, but I look at that as a stage lap. You hit a stage of your career. Like if you look at Berlanga, he's had an interesting career, meaning he's had 24 pro fights, 1 loss. His first 16 fights was stage 1, meaning that he goes 16-0 in those first 16 fights, 16 first-round knockouts. Okay? And then from the 17th fight to the Canelo fight was a path of how do I get to Canelo? So he does that. And now part of that is how do I get to Canelo is I have to have these performances that look good enough to get to Canelo, but not good enough or great enough for people to say, hey, Canelo, that's a riskier fight. And I'm not saying that Berlanga purposefully went into some of these fights against some of these low-level guys and looked flat. I'm saying the matchmaking from his camp, Keith Connolly, putting him up against guys like Quigley, putting him up against guys with not the biggest names, but doing enough to get the victory. He gets to Canelo. He gets that part 2, stage 2 of his career, get to the Canelo fight, win or lose. That's a success. That's why he does the parade. First part of the career, second part of the career. It's this next third of the career that's going to tell us about his legacy. It's this next third that we're going to find out is Berlanga who he thinks he is, because he thinks he is. And, he's convincing. He can be convincing. You were quite convincing. So we'll see. But that's how I look at a fighter's trajectory and how they got to where they're going. Yeah, whoever said that Berlanga wasn't big is insane. What are we talking about here? I mean, a super middleweight who's 6'1", who walks around at 210 is a beast. And how old is your boy? Hamza's 26. Berlanga's 28. Hamza's only 2 inches. So Hamza's only 2 inches taller than Ed with a 2-inch reach. This would be his first fight at 68. He stopped ammo. I'm not sold on him. Yep. Shiraz is going to have to prove it to me. All right, guys, I'm going to leave this on for another minute or so. Stay tuned to the channel. I'm going to be uploading, like I said, Taylor versus Serrano. I did a poll. If you haven't voted in the poll, go to and vote. Adames isn't a big dude. I mean, you could find not too long ago, Adames, he cut his teeth at 47. That's exactly why I see Shiraz getting stopped, because Turkey don't know shit about boxing. Turkey don't know boxing, dude. If anything, there's other guys that Turkey could get behind other than Hamza. We'll see what happens. How do you see Shiraz as the better boxer, though? What does he do good? What does he do better than? I think people you just like his height and size and his jab. Guys, click. That's the question. I understand. I understand. My point is, if you use that fight, look, what are you pulling from to think Shiraz is? So you're saying Shiraz is going to go into the fight having the size and strength advantage? I disagree. Yeah, I think Edgar on money line or Edgar by stoppage. But stay tuned to the channel, guys. Like this video. I'm going to be going live again today. I'm going to be uploading 2 edits. It's a busy week. I have a lot of work to do. Appreciate all the support. We don't have to disagree. We don't have to agree on everything. It's actually more fun when we disagree. And appreciate everybody. Talk to you guys soon. Stay tuned. Hit the bell notification button. I'll see you guys.